Some of us may not think we're leaders in life because, for various reasons, we might be retired, we might be self-employed, we might be, I don't know, 8 years old. We have all these reasons why we might think, no, I'm not in a leadership position. People don't work for me. I'm not in charge of anything. But the idea is that we are all leaders in some capacity, if for no other reason than we're in charge of our own lives. No one's leading our life for us. Some of us wish somebody else really more competent than we are were leading our life for us, but no, sorry, I hate to break it to you, it's you. You are the boss of your life. Okay, so we expand this to talk about how do we live and or lead from a place of consciousness, because the truth is, as we know from our spiritual teachings, we manifest and we experience life from the level of consciousness that we are at. Okay, we're always doing it. We're always creating, we're always manifesting, we're always bringing things into form, we're always experiencing the world around us and within us. And how we do that depends on where we are in our consciousness. And the essence of this book, the real simple premise, is that we're either leading from above the line or below the line. And when we say above the line or below the line, we're really talking again about where we are in consciousness. So I was really happy to see, as we were reading through the book this week, and when I first read this months and months ago, this idea of the 4 states of being of leadership and how it really aligned with our spiritual teachings that we've been talking about for a lot of times. So the 4 levels basically are to me, by me, through me, and as me. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the one thing you need to know right now is that the below the line way of being, of living, and leading is this idea that life is happening to me, that everything is happening to me. When we're in that place, we're below the line. All the other states of being are above the line. My favorite question, somebody said, what if you're right on the line? I'm like, there's no on the line. If you're on the line, if you're asking about being on the line, I think you know where you are. How do you know when you're in to me consciousness? This is when, primarily, we play the victim and we blame others. We play the victim and we blame others. We ask ourselves, why is this happening to me? We ask ourselves, whose fault is it that this happened? And then we say, well, somebody should fix it. This is a mess. Somebody needs to fix this, right? It's really fun when it's in our own lives. My life's a mess. Somebody should fix it. I don't know who that somebody's going to be. How do we know we are in to me consciousness? When we're walking around with a sense of angst, anxiety, fear about things not working out. When we say, and we're grounded in to me consciousness, we are also making a commitment to blaming others, blaming ourselves for what's wrong in the world. We commit to being a victim, villain, or hero by taking more or less 100% responsibility for what's happening. That's the commitment we're making when we find ourselves in to me mode or consciousness and decide to stay there. And that's the key part. When we find ourselves there and we decide to stay there, that's the commitment we are making. So how do we get out of that? We get out of that by taking responsibility. I love the term the book uses, radical responsibility. Radical responsibility is this idea that no one's at fault, there's no one to blame, and that I am 100% responsible for the circumstances of my life, my physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being, and to support others to take full responsibility for their lives. This is radical responsibility. To commit taking full responsibility for the circumstances of my life, my physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. And also to commit to supporting others in doing the same. This might be the biggest challenge each of us has to take on in our lives in every moment. to be in our life, to be in a situation, to be in an experience, and it's not turning out the way we thought it should have been or want it to. And in the midst of it, ask ourselves, how do I take full responsibility for my life in this? How do I take full responsibility? Now, let's be clear, responsibility is not self-blame. Okay? We're not asking you to say, this is my fault, because that's also rooted in fear. That's also toxic. Taking responsibility is basically asking yourself, what's mine to do right here, right now? To be conscious. Or as I like to say, to be the embodiment of God, to be the embodiment of love, of spirit, whatever is being called of you to be. What is mine to do to take on? How do I realize that I might be blaming others? How do I realize that I might be holding myself in blame? And part of it is we have an attachment to how we think things should be. Can you imagine walking through life with this idea in your head that nothing should be how I think it should be? No one should be how I think they should be? Has anyone ever experienced that? I sure haven't. Now I'm working more and more on that, including for myself. How do I stop shutting on? Like I said, everybody needs to stop shutting on themselves. No one wants to clean that mess up. Give it a second. We all have this idea of how our life should be, how somebody else's life should be, what people should be doing, what organizations should be doing, what leaders should be doing. We all have these ideas, and we become attached to them. When we become attached to them and they don't happen, then we fall below the line into that to me place. And we take action from that to me place. And that never ends well. When we take action from the to me place, we don't connect, we separate. We don't love, we hate. We don't come together, we isolate.